because she refuses to send out my stuff. Like, it honestly felt like I was gambling. She quoted me more than $900. Hey guys, just a quick disclaimer before we start. Even though I talk in this video about the negative experience I had with this seller, it's in no way a personal vendetta against them or anything. I also lacked a lot back then and circumstances progressed up to this point. If stories like this make you feel uncomfortable, I would suggest that you watch at your own discretion. Lastly, the sun kept appearing and disappearing while I was filming this, hence the differences in lighting. Apologies about that. Now back to the video. Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the story of how I nearly got scammed out of over $1,000. So the story starts in April 2020, and when I had just become a fan of 101, I really wanted to collect their merch. And at the time my bias was Ongi, and so I wanted to collect everything that had Ongi's face on it. And so I ended up on this particular buy and sell website where I saw this shop kind of account, and they had lots of different clothing, like Asian brand clothing, and they also had a lot of K-pop merch, including so much 101 merch. They had this postcard set that I wanted. It was an Innisfree postcard set and it sold for about $25, and I thought, this is pretty good. I'm gonna message the seller and say if she has an Ong Song-woo one available to sell to me. So when I first messaged her asking if she had an Ongi one, she was like, oh yes, we do have an Ongi one. And by the way, are you his fan? And I was like, yeah, actually I just got into 101 in April, and Ong Song-woo is my bias in 101. So at this point she seems like a pretty nice person, and so basically we just started talking and we started messaging on this shopping website, and I was pretty excited that she wanted to talk to me because at that time last year, obviously everything was in lockdown and I was at home by myself a lot. And even though I'm not really like a person who gets this feeling of loneliness or anything, I mean, I like to be alone, but I'm not lonely. Lockdown was kind of making me bored and I kind of wanted to talk to people, and especially since I've become a 101 fan, I wanted to talk to fellow fans of 101. And so she was quite friendly to me and I didn't think too much of it. But now thinking back to it, I think she was just trying to like gain my trust. So we keep messaging like about ourselves for a little while, but then she directs the topic back to what I originally wanted, which was this $25 postcard set. She sent me a couple of photos of the Ong Song-woo packaging, and I thought that was okay. Obviously it's sealed, so you can't give me photos of the inside, and I was pretty happy with it. And so she asked me to pay for it, and so then she could like ship it out to me a little bit later. And I thought this was pretty reasonable, so I paid her the $25. And at the time I did wonder why she wasn't asking me for shipping costs, and then she revealed to me that the postcard set is not actually on hand and it's actually in South Korea, and she's doing like a big group order thing for these postcards. And I thought it was a little bit iffy that she didn't specify if it was on hand or not. So moving forward a week or two, she messages me again and she is like, oh, you can send me your wish list with all the things that you want. And she said they had a lot of spare merch available because at the time when 101 had been active, they did a lot of group orders. And obviously when you hold massive group orders, people back out of these group orders and you're left with like some leftover merch that no one wants. And so I sent her my wish list, and then she was like, we have 10 to 15 photo cards that you need, especially album photo cards that I was looking for at the time. And so she sent me like a couple of photos of the items, and then she gave me like a quote of how much everything would be in total. And this was a big thing that she liked to do now that I think about it. She liked to offer me things and say, we have this piece available, but she wouldn't tell me how much it is. She wouldn't specify to me which location it was in, and she would just say, I have this item. And so basically there was about 15 photo cards and maybe 5 pieces of larger merch that she promised that she would sell to me. And so she quoted me like a price for it, and it came to about $175, $180 I would say. It was like a big shock to me because I didn't expect it to be so expensive. And so I asked her, I was like, oh, it seems like a little bit pricey. Why is it so pricey? And she was like, oh, because we operate in like a different market in Singapore. The demand supply is different. And it took us a lot of effort to get this merch, and that's why it's a little bit more expensive. And then I said, oh, could you do it like a little bit cheaper? And she said, yeah, just for you, we'll do it at $150 for all of this stuff, but it's a special favor to you. So I paid for the postcards, and then I paid for like this second round of items, and I also paid for the postage. And overall that was like $200 something in total. And so then what happens is that she starts to apparently pack up all of this stuff. But the thing is, she never sends me any photos of the packaging. And a couple of weeks later again, I would say it's about June to July at this point, and we had started talking in April. So it has been 2 months since we first started talking, and this transaction is still going on and we are still negotiating. And then so apparently she tells me she begins packing up this stuff, and then she says she packs it all in a box. Whatever this box can hold, my stuff in the box doesn't go up to the weight limit. And so she messages me and she says, oh, your stuff is only like 2 kilos and the box can hold 5 kilos. And she's like, oh, you have an extra 3 kilos to put in this box. So it's better for you if you top up the box with more things. And it's actually pretty reasonable for someone to say that to you. Like, you do save shipping if you ship out like more stuff at once. And what she suggested to me is she suggested, how about you keep this 5 kilo box at my place for now, and over the year you can like top up what you want, and I will offer you things that I have and you can top up and choose to pay for things that you want, and then I will ship this out to you when it gets to almost 5 kilos of stuff. And I thought that's okay. I'm not really in a hurry to get any 101 merch because they've disbanded. And so begins the process over the next month or two again, where she offers me a couple of items every week or so, quite sporadically. So basically what happens is, at this point I decided to collect OT11 101. And so I sent my wish list to her and she was like, I can help you get all of the photo cards on your wish list. Now, when someone offers to get all of the photo cards on your wish list, that is very suspicious. I know that now. But again, I was naive back then and I trusted her, and we've been talking about like our personal lives and stuff. She proceeds to gather up all of these photo cards and stuff. So she manages to find like 50 of them. And then there's also like this bunch of other merch that she manages to offer me and I say yes to. And so here's where the trouble comes in. So we reach almost 5 kilos and she's like, cool, this box is like nearly full, the shipping is therefore worth it. And she quotes this photo price, and I kid you not, for like 50 photo cards it should be maybe $300, I would say, plus the little bit of extra merch that I wanted. So I expected that this bunch of merch would be maybe $500-ish. She quoted me more than $900 for this merch. By this time it was around August. Now, I had been collecting photo cards, listening to K-pop, interacting with other K-pop fans a little bit for about 4 months now. And so I knew what price is reasonable and what price is not reasonable. And I knew when people behave in bad ways, like when they get really aggressive, when they get really defensive. She quoted me more than $900 for this stuff. So I said to her like, oh, it seems quite pricey again. And she was like, yes, because we operate in a different market in Singapore, honey, and that's why it's more expensive. So by this time, I kind of felt that she was being very condescending towards me. I feel like, especially after being able to compare with other sellers that I spoke to, She treated me like I didn't know anything about collecting and I didn't know anything about K-pop, which is so not true. And so I told her, I was like, oh, you know, I've been on Instagram a little bit and I've been on Facebook a little bit. And here in Australia, people sell one-on-one cards for about $5 or $6 Australian each. The price that you're selling it is like 3 times higher than what they sell for in Australia. Man, did she get angry. She was like, how dare you compare me to the sellers in Australia, and how dare you say these things? You know, we operate in a different market and there's different demand. Basically everything that she'd been saying before, but like she was more angry now. And she was like, I went through so much trouble to get these items for you, and like I had to communicate with so many sellers and use up all my connections to get you this stuff. And this really put me off, because if you're a seller, no matter how many questions your buyer asks you, obviously like if they're a time waster then it's really annoying, but like I was asking legitimate questions about the price, and for her to get so angry and defensive, that was a pretty big red flag for me, right? And I was just thinking, what kind of market do you operate in that you are selling photo cards for 3 times what they are worth and 3 times what every other normal person sells them for? Like, I understand that there are differences in demand. For example, like a group could be a lot more popular overseas compared to in South Korea. Merch and photo cards could have a couple of dollars difference, but this is like a 300% markup, please. So basically, I really didn't want to pay this final $900, because when you add up that $200 something I'd already paid for my postcard set, plus my couple of Ongi photo cards and merch, and then you add up this final giant monster, it is more than $1,000 of stuff. And if I pay her that final $900, it's going to be more than $1,000 that I could potentially lose, because I still don't know if this person is legit or not, because she refuses to send out my stuff. Like, it honestly felt like I was gambling. Like, you know, if I pay this extra bit, maybe I will get all my merch. Another thing was, when she quoted me that $900, she said, if you pay this $900 by this date, I will ship it out to you on this date. So for example, she sent me this message on Monday and she was like, if you pay $900, I will send all the stuff out by Friday. And so like I replied to her and asked her a question. Normally, if you say something like, I will send out by Friday, then you're gonna be on your phone all the time waiting to see if I've paid, right? Because if I've paid, then you're gonna start packaging everything up and then sending stuff out. Thing is, I sent her a question on Monday and she did not reply until the following week, like a long time after that Friday deadline had passed. And so I kind of thought to myself, if I had paid $900, I don't think that you were intending to send stuff on Friday anyway, because you weren't even active and replying to my messages, and that's super weird. Like, I needed to give you my address and my phone number and stuff for you to send it out, but you weren't even online and checking your messages. I feel like she wasn't intending at all to send out my stuff in the first place, and so I'm really glad I didn't pay her. And so basically I said to her, like, I don't think I can pay $900 for this stuff. And here's where I fell into another trap of hers, like a very arbitrary trap that I feel like she just made it up on the spot. And so basically there was like this one piece of merch that she offered to me, and I'd never seen it before, but it was like pretty cute. And she had not told me at the time, but apparently she told me that this merch, she had to prepay for it herself in order to secure this merch. And so she said to me, I have paid for this merch for you already, and so you have to pay this $900 because I've paid for this thing already, which was like $30, I guess. The thing is, she had never told me that she had to prepay for something. I just assumed that she owned everything that she was selling to me. I completely did not trust her at this point. All of this uncertainty, this refusal to clarify the price and the location of the goods, this condescending tone that she was using towards me for being like a new fan. So I did not want to pay this $900, and she got pretty mad. And we kind of came to this stalemate where like I refuse to pay and she refuses to send out the goods. And obviously it's May 2021 now, so since we started this transaction it's been more than a year and I still haven't received anything. And yeah, that is a cautionary tale for all of you. Always think for yourself. If something doesn't feel right, don't go through with it. You don't have to go through with it unless there has been like a prior obligation, like you have to pay at a certain time, whatever. But that should be very clear and the seller should make that very clear to you. So do you guys think I did the right thing in not paying that final money? Do you guys think I treated the seller in the correct way and asked the correct questions? Or do you think that I did something wrong? Do you think I should have paid? I don't know if I can still pay now. I think it's like over. But yeah, that is it for today's video. My very interesting story with this potential scammer. Thank you for watching today. I hope that story was interesting to you and I hope you learned something. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.